Hello, welcome to Around the Horn. I am your host, Jumbo Reale. And as always, we have our four lovely panelists with us. You know the rules of the game, so let's get to it. First up, we have Chicago Ted 1,
How's
otherwise known as
everybody?
Teen Racer. Ted?
How's everybody doing tonight?
Next up, we have Dean Craig Pelton.
Hello. Intro. Yeah.
Our third panelist is NP Clem.
Fuck tech. All techs.
You.
And our fourth panelist is the beautiful, notorious Big EJ.
Sco Ducks.
Alright, so basic rules. I will ask questions and you will receive points. If I like your answers, you will lose points if I don't. And if I super really hate you, you will get muted. You each have 30 seconds. Alright, so let's start off with a more recent topic. So we want to know if Iowa's for real playoff contenders. They started the year 2-3, and now they're on a 4-game winning streak after their big win at Minnesota. Their last 3 games are Rutgers, Illinois, and at Nebraska, and if they make it, the Big Ten championship. Ted, do you think Iowa's going to make the playoffs?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Well, currently they're not even ranked. They're ranked, if you go by the Trade Chafin receiving vote system, they're ranked 30th, it looks like, in the last poll as of October 20th. They have a soft schedule to go out, and there's already 2 Big Ten teams in contention for the playoffs right now with the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Michigan State Spartans. So it would have to take some major falling down from the top 10 at least just to get Iowa to sneak in. They would be lucky if they finished above 15th this season.
Dean, what do you think?
I really do like this Iowa team, but unfortunately for them, they play in the Big Ten, which isn't really good for them. Now, they will win the Big Ten East, I believe, but they have to go up against the Big Ten West, and Penn State is way too hard of a team to beat. Believe me, I played them. I got blown out. They blew out Michigan as well. It's just a tough team to beat. Penn State is just solid all around. You can't attack them anywhere. Iowa will lose in the Big Ten championship game, but win the Big Ten East.
Nick, any thoughts?
I don't see Iowa beating Illinois. I think they'll lose that game. They won't win the Big Ten West. I think they're in that division. Penn State, Michigan State, those are 2 teams that will either play for the East. Both those teams will crush Iowa. Iowa doesn't have the depth to beat those teams. So I just don't see Iowa making the Big Ten championship or winning that game.
I always get those backwards.
All right, Notorious, any thoughts?
I think the other key part is even if Iowa does win out and plays in the championship game, more than likely they're not going to qualify more than one team to the playoff, the big that is. You're going to have to look at the fact that more than likely the independents are going to qualify a team. Either BYU or Notre Dame is probably going to finish in the playoff discussion, which currently isn't projected in Saluna's projections. So that's going to take up a spot. You're going to have another team probably come out of the SEC that doesn't win it. That'll probably take up a spot as well. And then at the end of the day, you could be looking at a team like Oklahoma, which may not win the big and still make the playoffs. So there's really not enough room for more than one team to come out of the big, and I think Penn State's just too dominant.
All right, thanks everyone. So good round. So just to let the viewers know, we're just going to give point totals that everyone got after the rounds, just to make things easier. So currently we have Ted with 4, Dean with 3, NP Clem with 1, and Notorious with 3. All right, moving on. Second question. We're going to go towards the NFL draft. The prospects have been out for a while, but what we want to know is who's the best QB, who's the top quarterback that's currently entered for the draft. Is it Aaron Devereaux from LSU or Eric Wiegert from Wisconsin? Dean, any thoughts?
Well, take a look at a guy like Devereaux and Uyghur. They put up extremely similar numbers. And Devereaux is just slightly at a completion percentage. Their touchdowns and interceptions are very similar ratios, but the thing about them is Devereaux has a lot better size. Now, LSU has not been as good as a team, so you don't necessarily know he's a winner, but that doesn't really matter when you relate to the NFL. That could just be Crimson Chin's fault. There are a lot of variables there. So I would take Devereaux.
Are you blaming Crimson Chin for Devereaux?
No, I'm not blaming Crimson Chin, but we don't necessarily know.
No, that's a mute, Dean. All right. NP Clem, what do you think?
I'm not really sure what to think. Dean said something about Wegert's size, and he's not that small. He's not exactly a small person. He's 6'4", 218. So for me, his size isn't a factor. So I would have to go by wins right now. If it's going by wins, how they lead their team to victory, it's got to be Weger over Devereaux just by the win percentage alone.
Notorious, what do you think?
I mean, when you look at all the stats, you have to see that Devereaux's put up a better season. He has a better completion rating, a better passer rating, a better touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, you can look at the fact that he doesn't have as many wins as Weger, but you also have to consider the fact that maybe that just has to do with the fact that the SEC is a tough conference. Now, the Big is a tough conference as well, but when you look at the fact that Taffy has proven himself as a coach, and while I'm not saying Crimson Chin is a bad coach, he's just less experienced than someone like Taffy, who's had more experience coaching, who has a better chance of leading someone like Weger to a better season, whereas opposed to Devereaux maybe doesn't have that same staff behind him.
Interesting. What about you, Ted?
Yeah, taking a look at the stats also, I'm going to have to go with Devereaux also. He has better statistics, as the other panelists have already come up and said. Better completion rating. Less games won, but also Devereaux didn't lose to Purdue. They're pretty equal quarterbacks, though. They're both going to do great in the NFL.
That's it?
Yep.
All right. So through 2 rounds, we've got Ted with 6, Dean with 4, Nick with 4, and Zach with 7. All right. Third question. We're going to go back to more college game. We're just going to talk regular college stuff. So who do you guys think, out of all the teams right now, will win the CFBHC National Championship? And don't say Penn State. Just kidding. You can say Penn State. NP Clem, what do you think?
I have to go with Penn State. They've been the most dominant team. They were running through a really good Big Ten conference, and they've played a really strong out-of-conference schedule. If we're going to look outside Penn State, I would look at Oklahoma as the next favorite.
All right. Zach?
One of the teams I'm looking at to potentially have a run is Georgia. Georgia's had a pretty good season so far. One of their big wins is actually at BYU, something not very many teams have done, and that's a solid BYU squad. Also, their one loss was, they only have 2 losses so far to Michigan State at the beginning of the season and Tennessee a couple weeks ago. So Georgia's definitely going to be a team to look out for coming into the playoffs, especially if they can get through the SEC. I know Penn State's probably favored, and you also have to look at a team like USC, which was off the charts rating-wise to begin the season. I'm not sure what exactly's gone wrong in their 2 games, but those are a couple teams to look out for outside of Penn State.
Ed?
I mean, if we're basing it on the projected playoffs right now, USC really has never proven that they're very strong in the playoffs after getting blown out against Alabama. Not really much has changed between that coach and that squad to prove to me that they have what it takes to get to the second round, much less even the championship game. I'm going to go with the dark horse. I'm going to go with Michigan State. I think that they're going to upend Penn State. And then I think that they're going to go on and just go through a defensive tear through the playoffs and do just enough to win. It's never going to be a dominating performance. It's going to be game after game of heart attacks. But I think Coach Slinky can really pull this one off.
Dean, any thoughts? Anyone different?
Well, no, I'm going to go along a little bit with Zach said, because if you take a look at this USC squad, they are extremely talented. Now, I'm not necessarily going to say they're going to win. I actually have Penn State as my favorite as well. But USC, they have the talent there in place, and their quarterback plays a lot better from last year. Unlike what Ted said, they are a better team. Jerry Rambo is a lot better as a running back. Their offense is just better in every sense of the way. So I will say USC definitely has a shot. I'd still take Penn State as the favorite, though.
So you think Penn State is going to win, or?
Yeah, I think Penn State's going to win because they've just been extremely dominant throughout all of big play, throughout the OOC. They beat Florida State, they beat Boise State, which is not a thing a lot of teams can say. So I'm going to pick Penn State all the way.
All right, guys. So through 3 rounds, we've got Ted with 10, Dean with 7, Nick with 6, and Zach with 11. Please let me know in the shout box if me saying the scores after every round is annoying, and I'll stop. All right. 4th question. We're going to move to actual NFL HC. So it's been an interesting season. You know, it's not as clear-cut this year, the award winners, as it kind of was last year. So I'm going to ask the panelists, who do you think is going to win the NFL MVP, and who do you think is going to be the Defensive Player of the Year? Notorious, we'll start with you.
I think MVP's kind of an easy one to predict right now. You have to look at what Alan Taylor's doing with the Jaguars. He's putting up stats both up through the air and through the ground through these past few weeks. And you have to look at the fact that more than likely he's going to carry that Jaguars team into the playoffs and potentially make a run with such a diverse offensive attack. As far as defensive player of the year goes, I think you either have to look at Galbraith. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, from Indianapolis, who's been having a great year, multiple sacks and making the Bengals look like idiots for trading him. Or you have to look at someone like Tyrone Jones. Even though he's just a rookie, he's definitely made an impact from day one in that Baltimore squad. Definitely been one of the bright spots in an expansion team. So those are two players to look out for defensive player of the year.
But looking at Tyrone Jones' stats, do you not think? I mean, he doesn't really have the sacks this year, and he has a marginal number of turnovers. Do you really think he could beat out someone like Galbraith or Brum, whoever?
I mean, what you also have to look at is the fact that the Ravens have found a way to win. So whether or not that's Tyrone Jones directly having an impact on the stat sheet or not, he's definitely having some impact on that defense. I know when I game planned against them, I directly tried to go away from Tyrone Jones, whether it's through the air or through the run. So even though he's not showing up on the stat sheet, I think he's definitely having an impact with the way opponents look at the Ravens defense.
All right, Todd?
Well, let's start with defense because that's not really my forte. Just taking a look at the stats here, have them sorted in a specific manner. Inside linebacker Andre Brooks, of his 7 games, has 69 tackles and 2 interceptions, along with 3 sacks. And I think he could really be a dark horse for Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year. New England's been performing pretty well as a team, and I think he's been a silent but crucial part of that defense.
But do you think tackles are all important for being the best defensive player? I mean, that could just be you making a mistake and then tackling the guy.
I mean, it all comes down to it stops points for one, stops yardage, and it also combines with the 3 sacks and the 2 interceptions, and every tackle you make is only going to go on the stat sheet as a tackle, even if it's for a loss or for 3 yards or for 5 yards.
Okay, fair enough. What about MVP?
And he has full and fumble return, so he's jack of all trades, it looks like.
What do you think for MVP, Ted?
MVP, looking through it right now.
So unprepared. I'm taking points away from that, buddy.
Right now, James Otero is leading Miami with 111 rush attempts, 632 yards, and 9 touchdowns. 79 yards per game, not too bad. I think I'll just go ahead and go with James Otero and pass it off to somebody else.
You really think James Otero over someone like Brian Brown, even on his own team?
I told you I wasn't prepared for that segment.
All right, you're mute for that. All right. Steve,
Oh,
what do you
Lord.
think?
Okay, so yeah, if you're going to pick anyone on Miami, you're picking Brian Brown. And Brian Brown has put up some of the best numbers, but I think you have to give the nod for MVP to Alan Taylor from Jacksonville, because when you look at him, Brian Brown isn't necessarily all of Miami. They still had the pieces there last year with Will Thompson. They're already good. But Alan Taylor is Jacksonville. He is the leading force behind that team. And it's the same reason I'm picking for my Defensive Player of the Year, Alvis Brum out of the New York Jets, because he is the Jets' defense. He has 10 sacks on the year. 10 sacks. That's ridiculous. In 6 games, he's had 10 sacks. That would be on pace for over 20 sacks. I mean, I think he's just been left out of some stat line, so that's why that number's only at 6 games. But Alvis Brum is one hell of a player, and he should win Defensive Player then, because 10 sacks is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
All right. MP Clem, what do you think?
I think for MVP, I'm going to go with Brian Brown. Even though Dean said that they are a loaded team, I think he's proven that he is one of the best players and that he is very vital to their team. I think even if you put their backup, I don't know who the backup is, I don't think they would play as well as they have played so far this season. And for a defensive MVP,
Thompson, who led them to the first seed last year.
well, then maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But for defensive player, I think I'm going to go with the homer pick and go with Mike Taylor out of Green Bay. He's a rookie. He's put up 7 sacks already so far in this first half of the season. I think he's just playing really well, playing above his skill level right now. I think he's just playing a lot. His head's on fire, and I think he's going to pull it out in the end.
But Dean just brought it up. Brum has 10 sacks. Daniels has 7. Would you really give Daniels the award just because he's on your own team?
Mike Taylor? Yeah. Right now, as a homer pick, yeah.
Okay.
Mike Taylor has one more tackle, so I think he can use that.
For it. So, fair enough. All right. So I think we're now through 4 rounds, right, guys? Through 4 rounds, we've got Ted with 9 points. We got Dean with 10. We got Nick with 6, and we got Zach with 14. We're only 2 rounds away from the cuts, guys. So Nick, you better do some catching up.
All right.
All right. Round number 5. This is an interesting one, I think. So there are a bunch of teams in CFBHC right now that you could say are underperforming. I mean, you look at Nebraska. With their talent level, they probably shouldn't only have 2 wins. But so of all the teams right now that aren't good, who do you think is someone you should look out for next year? So Ted, we'll start with you.
He's still muted, by the way.
Yeah, I think Ted might have left. Is he?
No, he's muted.
Did he mute himself, or did?
I didn't know I was supposed to unmute myself.
I can't unmute you myself. You got to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go with Nebraska. I know you already said it. Rabid, in the coaches' rankings, Rabid right now with his team is still the 3rd best coach on the sim. According to the rankings, he had the #1 recruiting class last season. I have to play him next season and then from the seasons on, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty fucking scared. He's an absolute beast as a coach. He's a great recruiter, and he's going to run roughshod on me in about 2 or 3 seasons, and he's probably going to have the first in a CFBHC dynasty.
All right, Dean, what do you got?
All right, now I'm going to say the thing that's kind of in the back of our minds. I'm going to say TCU. Now, I know that sounds kind of stupid at first, but Danger has a lot of talent that he redshirted this past year. He has a lot more talent coming in, so he can't get worse. And I think he will get the 5-star juke or the 5 potential JUCO in Texas, and that will be the thing that drives his team past. And if he doesn't, he might actually get Burden, who's a 3 out of 4 quarterback, and it can't get worse. He won't be throwing 19 interceptions and 0 touchdowns on offense. I'm not going to say he'll make the Big 12 championship like he thinks. I think we'll go 8-4, might be edging into the top 25 territory. He'll have a fairly good season, especially for what TCU's had in the past. So I will say TCU.
All right, I like that answer. NP Clem?
I'm going to go with Colorado State. They had a really good recruiting season this year, and I think if Slaughterhouse 5 can keep that up for the next 1 or 2 years, I think they're going to move to the Mountain West, where they're going to be a pretty weak division. So I think he's going to be able to run through that, maybe get some playoff contentions out of that. I think he can make a dynasty out there in the Mountain West.
But do you think a good recruiting class this year would necessarily translate to a good season next year? Is there anything you're seeing out of him this year that makes you think next year is going to be much improved?
Well, they're starting the Mountain West next season. I think the teams I've seen going there are Fresno State, New Mexico, Nevada, New Mexico State. So I think he will have a really good season next year if he can get a couple good JUCOs.
Okay. Notorious, what you got?
I'm going to look at a team that's doing above average but still probably underperforming a little bit, and that's Boston College. If you look at Boston College, they've had a great recruiting class through one of Hyther's cousins or alternate, as you could say, who actually did a really good job there. You also have to look at the fact that they have a 3.5 out of 5 redshirt quarterback in Alex LaShore. That team's ready to come in and compete as soon as they get a coach. The only problem is they haven't been consistent at the coaching position. The other team, like Ted already said, is Nebraska. One thing that Ted didn't bring up, or at least I didn't hear him bring up, is the fact that they just landed Sean Hamilton. Like, that right there is going to solve a lot of their problems. They had no passing game this year, and teams were just able to key in on that run game. So with a more balanced attack, Nebraska's going to be deadly, like Ted already said.
But do you not think that losing Mosi Bartez could hurt LaShore's development?
I mean, I think it'll hurt his development a little bit, but with the fact that you have to understand is he's a 3.5 out of 5. That means given like a half point to point progression next year, he's going to be a 4 or 4.5. Given just hopefully a decent receiver, I haven't looked at their depth chart to know if they have anyone else, but if they even have a decent receiver, he's going to be able to make plays, I believe.
All right. Sounds good. I like it. All right. So through 5 rounds, we've got Ted with 12, Dean with 13, Nick with 9, and Notorious with 17. And we have 1 round before our first cut. All right. Question 6. I know a couple of you brought up Alan Taylor in the MVP conversation, but let's move towards his team. So a lot of people didn't really see this coming, especially because Alan Taylor's so injury prone. But does anyone here think the Jaguars can make a Super Bowl run? So, Dean, I guess we're starting with you.
Okay, yeah, I will say that the Jaguars can actually make a Super Bowl run. I'm not saying they will win the Super Bowl. I think that might be a little far-fetched. They still have to go through the Dolphins. They still have to go through the Patriots, likely. They'll probably have to go through the Raiders. I'll say they'll come out of our division, and they're very tough teams. But the Jaguars do definitely have a chance. Alan Taylor puts them in the position to win any game they are in because he is just one hell of a football player. And Smoking Cricket is doing a wonderful job there. They've really they beat Miami, didn't they, recently? Because
Yeah, they had that 45-42 win.
yeah, so they beat what looked like the best team in the AFC, so they can definitely make it to the Super Bowl. I believe in the Jags.
All right, NP Clem, what you got for me?
I don't think they have a chance. I think New England and Miami are far better. I think even the Oakland Raiders are far better. And all it takes is one or two bad games from Alan Taylor, and they're gonna late in the season, and they're gonna just fall apart. I just don't see a way for them to make playoffs through that loaded division in there.
All right, Notorious, what you got?
I think it's going to come down to their offensive line. I know Saluna said it earlier in the shout box that they have one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive line in NFLHC. So if that offensive line can keep Alan Taylor healthy and keep him out of danger, I think they have the potential to go far. Now, if that offensive line starts to falter and Alan Taylor starts to get pressured more, gets sacked more, and becomes an injury risk, then I don't know how far the team's going to be able to go. So it's really going to come down to that offensive line and whether or not they can keep up their performance.
All right, Ted, any thoughts?
I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs.
Really?
I was looking for their schedule, but I could swear I had it up. Here it is. Right now they are 4-3 and 4-2 in the conference. While that is impressive, they still have games left against Carolina. At St. Louis is going to be a chore. New England's going to take them out again. I still believe that the Saints have a couple things up their sleeve, and even if the Jets can figure out their quarterback situation, they could take them down a peg. They're barely hanging on right now in near the 2/3 mark of the season to the 4th playoff spot. There's just too many teams that are better than the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're not even going to make the playoffs, much less a run to the Super Bowl.
So who do you think takes their spot?
Let's take a look here. I think the Indianapolis Colts could.
Okay. All right, so unfortunately we're at that time in the show where we have to make our first cut. So the scores now are, we've got Ted with 17 points, Dean with 16, we have NP Clem with 13, and Notorious with 19. So unfortunately, NP Clem, you are the first cut from our show. Any last words?
I'm just sorry I couldn't make it an all-Browns final.
Nah.
Uh,
Miss you, buddy.
All right.
Bye.
Have fun.
All right, cool. So now we're in the second round. So these are going to be our two buy or sell questions. So just so you guys know, I'm going to change around the order of the questions I posted. But so the first question for the buy or sell round is going to be, there have been some concerns over Sterling Brown's size for the draft. There are no running backs in NFLHC this year, according to LDO, that are under 180 pounds that have rushed for a single rush at all. So are you concerned about Sterling Brown's size? And buy or sell, would you pick him in the first round? Notorious, we'll start with you.
Well, me personally, I would not pick him in the first round just based off the Giants situation. But if you're a team looking at a running back, I understand the question. Yeah, if you're a team looking at a running back, I would select Sterling Brown in the first round. I think I do not buy, so I guess I sell the injury risk talk. I buy his health. Outside of one game against TCU where he was out for part of it, I don't recall him having another huge injury in his career. Because of that, I think that you have to look at the fact that he's going to be able to maintain health and be successful in NFLHC. Now, whether or not you think a running back is worth a first-round pick is up to you, but I think he has the talent to be worth one.
All right. Ted, what you think?
Well, I sell the injury risk. I sell that his height is going to be a problem, and I would buy taking him as a late first-round pick if I were in that situation, like Zach has said. After playing him for the past 3 seasons, I have to say that he is absolutely a threat and the best star on that Texas team. And every time I put my defense up against him, I have won twice, but that's putting my whole defense focused on the run because I know Dollar Bill won't throw the ball. I think he'll do perfectly fine. I don't think he'll be a breakout player. He won't win MVP. He won't win anybody a Super Bowl on his shoulders. But if you're looking for a serviceable running back, kind of like David Ortiz got with Houston, then I would definitely pick up keep trying to say Sterling Brown.
Would David Ortiz in the first round? Someone on David Ortiz's level?
David Ortiz has really helped out. He helped Houston out to the first to their first win.
He started
I'm just
one
using him
game,
as a
Ted. They
baseline.
started some random guy named John McMurtry over him. Sorry, that's a mute. All right. Dean, what do you think?
It really depends on who else comes out at running back position. Because if you have a guy like Michael Schumacher come out into the draft, or Marcus Berry, or Sean Anderson, there's a lot of other running backs that we haven't seen if they're going to declare yet or not, and that will definitely change Sterling Brown's stock. Now, if it stays as it is, I would consider taking him in the first round. I'd still think Akili Wallace is a better back. He has better yards per carry. And that's the only statistic I can name off the top of my head. And Sterling Brown, they do focus on him, and it's a smash out the offense in Texas. So he's getting a lot of carries. There's a lot of wear and tear on a running back, so that will raise his injury risk. I would not take him in the first round.
All right.
So I sell.
So through this round, we've got Ted with 19, Dean with 19, and Notorious with 22. All right, last question before our second cut. Another buy or sell. Buy or sell. Will Jarius Jones declare for the draft? There's been a lot of rumors in the shout box about him declaring. Do you think it'll actually happen? Ted, we start with you.
Absolutely sell it. Jarius Jones knows he can do better, and he wants to come back to this Iowa team to finish what they started. With a slow start with Iowa, he knows they can have a better start next season. They're going to go up against an absolutely stacked Penn State team. They're going to be beat, and then they're going to fall to a mid-tier bowl, and I don't think Jarius Jones is going to stand for that. He knows the money can wait. He has alma mater pride. He'll come back and contend for the Big East title next season, or Big Ten.
What you think?
I think Jarius Jones will declare early. If you take a look at the QB class right now, it's just not strong enough, and you need that other guy there, and Jarius Jones is the best quarterback out there. I mean, you'll have Touchdown Jesus coming out next year. He'll be the top quarterback. James Dale's probably coming out next year. Sorry, Jumbo. There's just too many good.
He's a senior next year.
Yeah, oh, he is? Okay. My bad. But yeah, there are way too many good quarterbacks coming out next year, and too few quarterbacks coming out this year. I think Jarius Jones will have to declare this year.
All right. I like it. All right, Notorious, what you got?
I buy the fact that he's going to declare as well. When you look at how the Big Ten is going to shape out next year, I don't see Iowa getting that much better, especially with a team like Northwestern, a team like potentially Nebraska, teams like Illinois continuing to improve and get better in that Big Ten West. He's not going to have that chance to compete like Ted thinks he will and come back and perform at an elite level. It's not going to be there. Also, when you look at the fact that we're adding more expansion teams to NFL HC this year, those teams need to realize that having a quarterback is huge. Look at a team like Houston. They struggled mightily through the first part of the season because they did not use their first-round pick on a quarterback, unlike a team like the New York Giants, who actually had success through the first half of the year. So when you look at that, I think that all the signs point to Jarius Jones declaring for the NFL draft.
All right. So it's now our second cut, and our scores are Ted 22, Dean 23, and Notorious with 25. So sorry, Ted, you are our second boot.
God damn it.
Any last words?
Yeah, fuck y'all.
Hey, whoa, this is a family.
New York Giants guy called his whole team there. Mating promotions, the mating call, the mute. Just remember that.
All right, thanks for joining the show, Chad. All right, so it's our final two. You guys know how this final round works. I don't know if everyone else does, so I'll explain it to everyone. The final scores are reset to 0 each, and I will ask them 3 questions. Whoever answer I like better, I will reward a point, and whoever has the most points at the end will win and get their own 30-second segment to say whatever they want about football, please. So let's start. So, Dean, you'll be first, and Notorious, you'll be second. All right, first question. Who's your Heisman pick? Dean, go.
I'm going to go with Mike Thomas out of USC. Now, this is kind of a weird pick. He's a 4.5 quarterback, but he's putting up some ridiculously insane numbers. He has like a 190 passer rating, 20 touchdowns. He's thrown 5 interceptions, which is great, over 2,000 yards passing. USC hasn't necessarily been great, but Mike Thomas has been insanely good, and USC continues to put up quarterbacks that just play over their potential. I'll give it to Mike Thomas right now.
Notorious, who you got?
I'm going to go with Charlie Walter out of Hawaii. Now, Hawaii just did falter to Navy this past week, but when you look at the fact that Hawaii more than likely is going to win the AAC and make the playoffs, for a redshirt freshman quarterback, that is huge. That is such an insane performance. Or he's a true freshman, so it speaks even more to how skilled he is. The fact that he's taking a team that has won like 2-3 games in the past couple seasons, that is huge. At the fact that they're going to make the playoffs this year under his leadership. I don't see how you can not give the Heisman to Charlie Walter, especially with the insane stats he's been putting up as well.
All right, I'm going to award the first point to Notorious. I actually like Charlie Walter better than Thomas this year. He's led a Hawaii team that most probably didn't think would be this good to be pretty damn good. And Mike Thomas really has just been like, he has like meh for quarterback stats. Walter's had like the second most attempts in CFBHC. I got to lean to Walter here. All right, so that's a point to Notorious. All right, question number 2. Of all the coachless teams in CFBHC right now, and there aren't that many anymore after the last wave, but of all of those, if you could pick any team, disregard your biases, if you were just a neutral coach coming onto the site, which CFBHC team would you pick that would lead you to the most immediate success? I guess Notorious will start with you this round.
It's a team I've already talked about here today, and that's Boston College. I think Boston College is ready to come in and compete. When you look at the talent they have at the quarterback position with someone like LaShore, they can come in and compete. All you would have to do is go after a JUCO wide receiver to come in and start for that team, and you'd have an insane hookup from day one. Not to mention the fact that they play in the ACC, and I think a team like Clemson, once CJ Logan starts to drop off, and I don't feel like he's that great to begin with anyways, I feel like a team could compete against them. Florida State is a very good team as well, but at the same point, I feel like if you had the right coaching staff under a team like Boston College, you could carry them far in CFBHC.
All right, Dean, who you got?
I'm taking Houston because if you can tell me I can come and take Joel King, Philip Moore, and all the rest of the talent, Savriki, however you pronounce his name, Savirak, I don't know, recruited for Houston, I would take that any day of the week. Houston's got so much talent on the roster, a lot of potential there. I'd come in and take that any day over a Boston College, per se.
I don't know if I'd take them over Boston College, but I do like Houston better just because they have it's like the Panthers model. They've got the star QB and the star linebacker on defense. Although Boston College is a good choice, I'll give you that.
But Houston's in the AAC, so you know.
That's fair.
They've also your conference. BC still has Clemson and FSU and all that to deal with, like you said. All right, so final question. I'm going to highlight my favorite matchup on Saturday night. Who you guys got in the game with Crimson Chin's LSU at Rome's number 11 Auburn? Dean, we'll start with you.
I like LSU in this one now, because the issue is with it's not actually Rome's coaching, but Auburn has not played to the same level they were playing before without the coach for whatever reason that is. It's kind of crazy to me that someone can go down with a coach. But in LSU, they've been kind of floating in these kind of games. They nearly beat Bama last week. Aaron Devereaux is a very good quarterback. I think Crimson Chin leads LSU over Auburn in an upset.
Notorious, what about you?
I'm going to have to take Auburn. I think part of the reason why Auburn has dropped off a little bit since gaining Rome is the fact that Rome's had to adjust to a new team. He's been used to game planning for Colorado, and given this time to adjust, I think Rome's going to come up and actually win a game with Auburn. He's going to show people and prove the haters wrong that he can coach. Not to mention the fact that I do believe in Rome over someone like Crimson Chin. No offense to Crimson Chin, Rome just had more time on the site, more time to game plan. And when you look at it overall, I feel like Auburn's a better team to begin with. I think they have more talent there, and with a coach who's now used to game planning with them, I think Rome will be able to pull it out. Plus, it's at home. You have to. I know that factors huge into this, as Luna said before. I think the home field advantage is too much, and Auburn comes out with the win.
I actually think personally the teams are about equal, and I think the coaching is really about equal, to be honest. But I think a home field advantage does give the lean to Auburn, so let me give the point to Notorious here. I'm sorry, Dean, you've been cut. I don't know if you can kick yourself out of your own chat, so I'm just going to mute you. All right, Notorious, you've got 30 seconds. Say whatever you want.
I'd like to give a shout-out to the Independents. Last weekend, we went 4-0, for which might have been the first time in college football head coach history. We had huge wins with teams like Notre Dame taking down their rival Purdue, BYU beat Illinois, Army got their first win under head coach Writing Waffle, and Navy took down Hawaii. So shout-out to the Independents for going 4-0 for probably the first time in site history. Let's keep it going. Let's keep going strong, finish out the season well, and hopefully we have a great playoff race between Abe and I for that independent playoff spot. Let's go.
All right, thanks, guys. It's been another fun episode. Well, first fun episode, and hopefully we can do this more. All right, this is Jumbo Reality signing out.